And now, ladies and gentlemen, working at height in the construction industry. Work at height subject matter expert John May from Mitie and RoSPA Awards Global Ambassadors, an enthusiastic and dedicated professional with extensive experience in FM. He has many years of experience in training, advisory work, risk management, accident investigation and auditing. Please welcome Mr. John May.
Thank you for that introduction. Thank you, GSS, for the invite as a keynote speaker tonight. I'm very, very pleased to be here in prestigious company and in such a splendid venue. So I'm going to take a spin away from ESG and my talk is going to be about working at height, particularly within the construction industry. My name is John May. I'm from Mitie, and I'm a RoSPA Global Awards Ambassador as well. Those from organisations who usually submit an entry or looking to do so this year with RoSPA, the award registration is officially open, and RoSPA in 2026 will be celebrating its 70th anniversary year. I just wanted to put that shout out. My talk will focus mainly on the associated hazards, risks involved, UK legislation and safe practices. So the purpose of the presentation: to raise awareness of hazards associated with working at height, to outline safe working practices, reference UK legislation relevant to working at height, and to touch on some statistical information particularly for the construction industry. So, what is the definition of work at height? What is it? The HSE, the Health and Safety Executive in the UK, defines working at height as any work where a person could fall a distance to cause their self-injury. This includes working on ladders and step ladders, on scaffolding, on roofs or fragile surfaces, using elevated working platforms or MUPs, near open edges, within deep excavations or pits. So we have some legal requirements in the UK. First and foremost, the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, which is the overarching piece of health and safety legislation in the UK. Sitting beneath that as well, particularly to work at height, we have the Work at Height Regulations, 2005. We also have the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations, 1999, which touch on things like the requirement for risk assessment. And we need to look at the key duties within those regulations where it stipulates that we need to plan and prepare. So robust planning before any work takes part. We need to make sure that we have adequate training and supervision of the people doing that work. As I've touched on, the management regulations put a legal requirement around the effective risk assessment to identify the hazards and safe control measures that we need to implement. And training as well for the people using the safe equipment within the industry. So touching on some statistics from the industry, falls from height are the leading cause of fatalities in the construction industry and far outweigh all the others. So falls on their own stand to 52%, that's what they account for each year. Trapped by something collapsing or overturning sits at a meagre 11% in comparison. Struck by something moving, including flying or falling objects associated with working at height, again 11%. Struck by a vehicle on a building site or other workplace, we're looking at 10%. And contact with electricity or electrical discharge accounts for a 5% in comparison. So you can see the size of the problem with working at height in the construction industry. Common hazards associated with it are obviously falls from ladders, scaffoldings and from roofs, slips and trips on uneven or slippery surfaces, the risk from falling objects, which we've already touched on, unsafe access and egress. So again, the Health and Safety at Work regs will say not only do we need to provide safe working places, but safe access and egress from them working places, which includes working at height. Inadequate edge protection or guardrails, things like open voids, skylights where we have fragile roofs. Poor weather will always have an effect on the work at height we do. Improper use of ladders or scaffolds, people taking shortcuts, not using them for what they're designed for, etc. The risk factors, weather conditions, winds, rain, ice, these will all have an impact on how we can work at height. Poor maintenance of equipment, so usage, storage, inspection, pre-use work to make sure that the work is fit for the purpose we are actually undertaking. Back to the regs again, so lack of training and or supervision. Again, it's legislated that this needs to be in place. And then we move on to the human error. So human error is, as we all know, in various forms. We can split them into two categories, errors and violations. Errors by themselves can be split again into skill-based errors and mistakes. Skill-based errors are particularly slips of action, lapses of memory. Mistakes are based around rule-based mistakes or knowledge-based mistakes. And the violations tend to be routine, situational or exceptional. Control measures, what do we need to put in place? So working at height has a hierarchy of controls. First and foremost is obviously avoid. Do we need to go and do that work at that height? If we can't do that, then we need to look at preventative. So we're looking at working in restraint, so we can't get close to the edge, we can't fall from that platform. Or if we can and we still have that risk and we need to work close to that edge, we'd have to look at reduce. So reducing the impact of the fall, reducing the distance we fall in, etc. And the last and foremost of all these things, PPE. Some examples of those controls. So avoid, how can we avoid working at height? A good example I would give you would be window cleaning. We no longer have to abseil from a building. We no longer have to climb ladders, platforms, etc. We can work from the ground with our feet firmly on the ground with the use of telescopic poles. Working in restraint, again, we can work in restraint when we're using harness and lanyards. Use of full arrest equipment, systems and guardrails. Various pieces of equipment we can use when we can work in full arrest, which will catch us if we have to work close to the edge and we do sustain a fall. Safe scaffold erection and inspection. Again, safe scaffold inspection will get us to, erection will get us to where we need to work safely with safe access and egress to that platform. Training and supervision, I can't mention that enough. We have trained people who understand how to do the work safely, and we have supervised people making sure that they are compliant with that training. Secure tools and materials, and that way I mean lanyards, safety nets, so that we prevent falling objects. And if they do fall, we have a means of capturing them. And last but not least, the PPE. And I'm referring to safety harnesses, their use, their inspection, their pre-use inspection, again by competent people. So some safe working practices. Most prosecutions that are brought from the HSE around work at height mainly extend around failure to plan. Failure to plan the work correctly, failure to plan a lift before the lift was taking part. So plan the work appropriately. We conduct risk assessments. We understand that that's part of the management regulations. We need to conduct risk assessments with competent people to understand the hazards associated with the work and to understand the control measures we need to put in place. We ensure we use safe equipment, and by that I mean ESBN registered safe ladders, scaffolds, harnesses and lanyards. We communicate what we find, those hazards and those controls that we're raising in the risk assessments, so everyone understands the risk that's presented. And we ensure adequate rescue plans are in place and fully understood, and in some cases tested before we implement the work. Finally, the personal protective equipment, PPE as we're affectionately known, consisting of harnesses, lanyards, safety helmets with chin straps, so that if they do fall, they don't come off, they stay in situ. Safety boots, obviously for correct footing. The correct training to use that equipment and conduct pre-use inspections to make sure it's suitable and fit for purpose. Inspection routines in place by competent people, not only for the pre-use inspections before the work takes place, but as a statutory requirement, so 3 monthly inspections around harnesses and hard hats, etc. Maintenance and storage, big thing that we sometimes lack is the maintenance of that equipment, the safe storage of that equipment where it can actually maintain damage. That's where it will get thrown into the back of a vehicle, not correctly stored away, left into the rain, etc. That's where we'll get egress into stitching on harnesses and things like that. including when to understand when it's no longer fit for purpose or it's reached its maximum age of use, so it's safely withdrawn from use. Training and competency is a legal requirement, as already touched on, for workers to be trained in work at height and the equipment they use. Competency and verification for the equipment's use, storage, training and inspection are all the main factors we need to consider. So in summary, falls from height are preventable. Using planning, safe systems of work, correct equipment and training delivered by competent persons. We need to always follow the regulations, best practice, ACOPs, and maintain vigilance. Promote a culture of when to stop the job. When does someone feel safe? No pressures from peers, peer pressure for get that job done safely. I've seen many a person have accidents at work and heard people stand on platforms like this who have been injured at work from a peer pressure to get a job done. And they've gone up to a ladder that's been unsecured and fallen from that and sustained life-changing injuries. And lastly, and at least amongst all of that, we all have a care of duty to these people that are doing this work on our behalf. Thank you.